Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of HardFoul Radio. This is the show that values time and puts God first. Appreciate you guys for joining me today. Let's get started. And while there is a ton of football stuff to talk about, there is a ton of baseball stuff to talk about. The baseball playoffs through a couple games has been amazing. I feel it's an obligation we have to start here. The great Fee Collier of the Minnesota Lynx 2 days ago now. I would have done this yesterday, but unfortunately I was sick, and so I wasn't live yesterday. Otherwise, this would have been leading off the show yesterday. But she basically comes out and she blasts the WNBA commissioner in regard to some of the comments that she's made in just conversations they've had over the years, including multiple, but one of the most jarring ones being if it was regards to Caitlin Clark, and it was Caitlin should be lucky that she makes $16 million off the court because the WNBA gives her the platform to do so. Another one that's insane. The players should be so happy, begging on their hands and knees for the deal that I just got them. We're going to talk about both commissioners, both WNBA and NBA. Adam Silver, I got something for you too. What's so frustrating about basketball commissioners in 2025 is they just don't get it, either of them, Kathy or Adam. And what makes it super frustrating is not just that they don't get it, is that we already had the blueprint for how this works. If you're doing something for the very first time, you're the first person to do it. I would give you some grace if there's some trial and error. You're the first person doing it. We've never seen it done maybe at all or maybe done correctly. But if you are following someone up and they already showed you how to be successful, I'm not going to give you as long of a leeway or a leash or a chance to mess this up, do right. David Stern, and maybe we just didn't appreciate David Stern as much as we should have. He figured it out with basketball. Basketball is different than baseball, which prioritizes its history. Basketball is different than the NFL, which prioritizes the shield and the program and the league. Basketball said, we're going to prioritize the stars. David Stern looked at it and said, I've got superstars, not just stars. I have superstars, not just superstar athletes. I have superstar looking people. I have Magic Johnson. I have Larry Bird. I have Michael Jordan. I'm going to prioritize this. And that continued through the Kobe's, the Shaqs, the LeBrons, the Tracy McGrady. This is why basketball culture is so star driven. It's because David Stern leaned into that and he said, the stars are the emphasis. That's what people are here to watch. Let's go commit all the way to it. Because it's not like football where they want to embrace the shield and these guys have helmets on, you can't see them. It's not like baseball where we want to romanticize the 1927 Yankees or the Big Red Machine. Basketball is a superstar led sport. Let your superstars, who in real life, by the way, are these extremely magnetic people because they're all really tall, generally good looking, they have personalities. Like you walk out in public and you could see a running back in public and he could look like a regular person. Maybe he's in shape, he looks a little bit bigger, but he could look like a regular person. A running back could be 5'11, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. Like that's a normalish human being. You could see a baseball player in public and they could look, take even your superstars. If you weren't exactly tapped into baseball, even a guy like Jose Altuve could walk past a regular person and nobody know who they are. NBA players are almost indistinguishable because they're 6'5, 6'6, 7 foot tall. They stand out. David Stern said, this is what we're going to market. This is what we're going to lean into. The stars of our league. And for Kathy, the WNBA commissioner, to act like She's done something so transcendent, which, you know why the WNBA's popularity is up? Because we are paying attention not to her, not to an individual coach, even though there's great coaches in the W. We're paying attention to the talent, the stars, the players, Asia, Caitlin, Angel, Fee. Like, these are the people that we are looking at. These are the people that are bringing extra attention. And the W has always had, to their credit, there's been all-time great players. There's been Diana Taurasi's. There's been Candace Parker's. There's been Maya Moore's. There's been Lisa Leslie's. But this group of stars, it's indisputable that they're bringing more attention. They're bringing more eyes to the WNBA. So instead of just going, hey, look, sometimes when you're a manager, just get out the way. If you have a good staff who gets their job done, that's when it's time to fall back and be hands off. Maybe you got to be hands on if your staff isn't doing their job, your staff isn't performing up to your expectation, then be a little more hands on. Then say, hey, we need to correct some things. Hey, I'm going to get more involved. But if your staff knows what they're doing, employees, everyone's doing great, like, be hands off. Let it run itself. Let it run itself. Bill Gates, this is one of the things where Bill Gates was famous for. He was able to do with Microsoft when things were where he was super involved in the beginning, obviously. At points, he was able to just go, I can be hands off. Things are basically running themselves. Xbox doing really well. Windows is doing really well. I don't have to be on everyone's ass day to day. So for her to go, well, Caitlin's lucky because the W gives her a platform. Do you know how insane it would sound if someone said, well, LeBron's really lucky that the NBA gave him a platform, that he's making all this money off the court. Michael should be just, he's super lucky that Nike was able to give him a contract because what the NBA provides. This is insane. And her responding to it, basically going, well, you took our conversation out of context. Some things you can't take out of context. Some things just are what they are. And I don't have proof, obviously, but I'm really hoping the reports that when they go through this negotiation, one of the things they're going to do is get Kathy up out of there, because she shouldn't have that job if that's truly her feelings. She shouldn't have that job if that's how she's going to commission the WNBA. Get her out of there, man. Adam, I'm not done with you either. Adam, this is even more disappointing because you're David Stern's successor. Again, David knew what to do. He has already given you the blueprint on how to be a successful commissioner. Adam took David's NBA, and while yes, Adam clearly has a goal to make it more global. And I'm not against the NBA being more global. Some of us at this point, there's more. If you want to look at the top 5, top 10 players, it's 50-50, or even the global players outnumber the American players. Jokic, Giannis, Luka, SGA. Like, we're looking for the next great American player, which is why people are so high on Cooper Flag. I get it. But don't go overboard. Please, Adam. There's this report, not even a report. Adam's talked about this before, but it's apparently going to get finalized, where he wants to bring Euro League. There's a new Euro League that's going to be starting up that is NBA funded and backed. Fine. He wants to start incorporating them into the NBA schedule. This includes the play-in tournament, not the play-in tournament, sorry, the in-season tournament, but willing to expand to playing in the play-in tournament, playoffs, and regular season games, mixing the NBA with this other league. What? What? Exclusivity is part of the reason we love sports. And I know maybe that sounds a little harsh or a little off-putting, but let me explain. The reason why the National Basketball Association is in such high regard as the greatest league in the world to play professional basketball is because it's tough to play in. There's only so many roster spots. It's exclusive. You get a couple hundred guys a year who get to put on an NBA jersey and play in an NBA game. The same with the NFL, the same with Major League Baseball. Those are the highest professional leagues of their kind. There's other professional leagues. There's other Euro basketball leagues. There's other baseball leagues. There's other football leagues. But those are the top of the top. They're exclusive. You have to be the best in the world to get in there. And we're going to start inviting the European leagues and the European teams. Are we sure about this? Again, exclusivity helps sell these leagues. You don't get to play in them unless you are one of the best in the world. If you're not one of the best in the world, sorry, there's other leagues for you to go play in. There's Spanish leagues, there's other Euro leagues. Go play there. That's where you're supposed to play if you're not one of the several hundred best in the world that gets to play in the NBA, or one of the several hundred best in the world that gets to play in the NFL, or one of the best several hundred in the world that gets to play in Major League Baseball. Don't integrate these two things. Adam, you took over directly from David Stern. There's no way David would allow this. There's no way David would endorse this. And let's take it one step further, Adam. If maybe there's a thought that you're just being overly critical. Excuse me. This not only does not work, Adam, we have to just review you as a commissioner in general. When David Stern left, the gap between the NFL and the NBA, while there was a gap, it was not this. Since you've taken over, look how big the gap is between the NBA and the NFL. Now, you could argue the NFL was going to create that gap anyway because of its popularity, because of its scarcity. Fine, there's some validity to that. But Roger Goodell saying at the start of the season, we don't compete with the NBA, we don't compete with Major League Baseball, we compete with Apple and Google. That's an insult towards you. That's a dig towards you, especially because you've gone the other way, Adam. Not only is that gap with the NFL getting farther and farther and farther, the gap with Major League Baseball is getting closer and closer. Rob Manfred, who would have been the easy vote for worst commissioner in sports. Well, now Kathy's got it. But he has improved baseball and closed the gap between Major League Baseball and the NBA, between embracing new ideas that, quite frankly, again, if you're the first to do something, I wouldn't judge you as harsh, but you're not. You had an example. You had David Stern tell you, hey, this is how you can market this game. This is how you can improve this game. And Rob Manfred, he's like, let's do a pitch clock. Let's speed up the game. Let's be a little different. We're going to alienate some of the traditionalists, but the traditionalists are still going to come to us because they love the sport, and we're going to improve it. We're going to integrate a younger audience. We're going to get faster games, get the pitch clock, the defensive shift. He has embraced these things and made changes for the betterment of Major League Baseball. What has Adam Silver done for the betterment of the National Basketball Association? Ask yourself. And now you want to combine the Euro League with the NBA. I don't care if it's NBA backed or NBA funded or whatever you want to call it. That's your big idea. Basketball commissioners are at an all-time low. And that's a shame because the thing basketball should always have is you've got superstars, which David Stern showed you worked. It should also be the easiest sport to integrate new players. How the NBA, and this is Adam, 100%, I believe this is Adam Silver's fault. How the NBA didn't capitalize on all of the health scares that the NFL has presented the last decade plus. CTE, concussions, all these horrible injuries. And I love the NFL and I support the NFL. But all of these injuries that should have scared every mother in America across the world saying, I don't want my baby, I don't want my child to go play this violent ass sport. The NBA, you go buy a basketball, you can go to the park, you can go to a rec league, you can go to a gym. Everybody has basketball is so available to everyone. How Adam Silver didn't capitalize that on in this last decade plus of being commissioner is insane, especially with a superstar like Steph Curry who shows you, hey, you've had Steph and LeBron is the quintessential NBA superstar. He's bigger, he's stronger, good looking, the family, everything. He is the super athlete, the same way Jordan was, the same way Shaq was, the same way Kobe was, of this guy who just looks like he's above the world. And you also have Steph Curry, who is reinvigorate, who did reinvigorate a generation of kids who aren't 6'8", 6'9", 6'6", 7 feet tall, and says, hey, you can do this one thing so amazingly that you could also make the NBA. I shoot so well. I made the league even though I'm not the greatest athlete ever. I'm not the biggest guy in the world. Steph turned kids, used to work at a school. Kids used to sit there and try to, for years, kids would try to dunk when they know they couldn't hurt themselves. Now kids try to take 30-foot threes. Also, still not a great shot, but still. You have those two superstars, and you couldn't figure out how to close the gap with the NFL and said it's wider than it's ever been, and Major League Baseball is catching up to you? Basketball commissioners have never been in a worse place. And it's unfortunate for a sport that I love. And the NBA is not going anywhere and it's not going to die. But the position it's in has no business being in. Man, so much more to talk about. I went a little bit longer there than normal. A lot more to talk about. Some amazing baseball playoffs. The Dodgers advanced. They beat the Reds. Yankees, Red Sox turning into a semi-classic wild card series for as much as a 3-game series can be. A lot more to talk about NFL stuff as well. Don't forget, guys, use HardFoul 10 at checkout. Go get yourself a W Energy drink at your shaker. Go get yourself a tub. To wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, really to be live at 4 o'clock in the morning, to wake up even earlier than that requires a lot of energy. I'm a guy who's always been drinking 5 to 6 cups of coffee a day. I've cut back almost half of that thanks to W. It is a super good, super tasty energy drink without the crash out later. Again, get your shaker, get you a tub, use HardFoul 10 at checkout to get your 10% off. This is HardFoul Radio, back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in today. So, postseason baseball has been amazing, and I want to get uh, to it here. I do want to bring up something though that's been bothering me about the NFL season, and that is the kicking rule sucks, man. It just sucks. Look, we're gonna be a little off schedule here for today's show, but the kicking rule just sucks. Teams shouldn't have like a touch, like it being area focused, and teams should like getting a kick, getting it put out to basically the 40-yard line, and then one or two. Chase Daniel said this a few weeks ago, like one or two completions, and you're already in field goal range, and that's just shitty. That's just a bad way to play football. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel authentic. It feels like a cruddy way to play the game. And normally I would say, don't bitch. Only loser's gonna bitch. This in reality though is just a crappy way to play football. You can't have teams starting at the 40-yard line and then doing one completion 20 yards and oh, now they're in for a game-winning field goal, especially with the evolution of kickers who are now making 60 70-yard kicks. Like that's just not a good product. And I've said this a bunch. Oh, we have a bunch of people over here. Isn't that neat? They finally showed up. Well, how interesting. Okay, well, let's get rid of them. Don't know why they all showed up like that, but that's for later. Um. Anyway, the yeah, it's like a bunch of people like this shouldn't be the way that we consume football. We're gonna take a quick break to fix that. Okay, I guess we're gonna power through it. So yeah, no, I dislike the kickoff rules. And again, normally I would say it is just people complaining, but the reality is the way that they're doing this, not a fan. So let's move over to postseason baseball. So there's been a lot to love so far about the Major League Baseball postseason. And nope, I'm sorry. We're gonna transition again. Sorry, this got me all messed up, guys. Why And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Sorry for that. There was a little weird little mix up there. So the Dodgers look like how I thought they were going to look. The Dodgers, they beat the Reds 2-0. The ability of Shohei Ohtani, who's going to also get his first chance to be the two-way guy that we all know he is in the playoffs. He's going to start game one of the NLDS. The Reds were a great story. The Dodgers are a great team. You're seeing this in the other series. It is much more evenly matched. You're seeing teams that are much closer in competition. And then you saw the Dodgers basically boat race the Reds. What is going on, guys? Rough day for technical issues. I don't got anything else to say about that. Rough day for technical issues. So yeah. So the Dodgers, they beat the Reds. They're up on that. They beat the Reds 2-0. Shout out to the Reds and Terry Francona for getting his third team. Tony and I were talking about this yesterday. His third team to the postseason. That's a really impressive feat. When baseball's the one sport where managers, like in the basketball, we find it weird when someone wins coach of the year and then it feels like a year later they're fired. And we're like, well, why'd you give him coach of the year then? Or in the NFL, same thing, just coach of the year and then he's fired. It looks weird to us. Baseball, you can have multiple guys, a lot of guys who end up bringing the first postseason to a team in so many years, and it looks great and everyone's happy, and then a year or two later they're out, and that's more normalized in baseball. And part of that is the regular season is so much more of a grind. It's 162 games. You build these really long-standing relationships because you guys are playing so much together. You're making so many decisions, and but so Terry Francona would be able to get, obviously he had the Red Sox success, he had success with the Guardians, and now success with the Reds. Shout out to him, congrats. But the Dodgers are obviously again just a better team. We talked about this a few days ago. They're going to, in my opinion, I know the bullpen is going to be an issue, but starting pitching, offense, they're going to be able to boat race a lot of teams. And they're going to need to because they don't want to be in close games with that bullpen. That's not going to put them in a advantageous spot. That's not going to put them in a good spot. They blew 26 saves. If they just blew half of those, it would have been one of the all-time Dodger seasons that we had predicted, Tony and I, at the start of the season. We thought this team could potentially go for the wins record. Obviously, the bullpen didn't end up being good enough, and so that's why they finished where they finished. But you watch these other teams play, and you're like, the Red Sox, Yankees, okay, they're close. Padres, Cubs, okay, they're close. The Dodgers Reds is the one series where there was clear separation in talent and ability. It just felt like these two teams, if you were to say these are two postseason teams, people wouldn't believe you. Like they felt that different, if that makes sense. And so I say all that to say, excuse me, who's beating the Dodgers? Who was beating the Dodgers? Like, can you say sometimes you have to do, Bill Simmons is famous for this. It's the confetti test, and it's like, can you see so and so holding up a trophy in confetti? And if you really look at all the teams that are in the playoffs, the Brewers obviously had the best regular season. Um, On the AL side, there's the Blue Jays, the Tigers. Like, who can you realistically actually say, you know what? I see them and they're just going to beat the Dodgers now in a non-wild card series, beat them best of 7. I don't think it exists. So this has been a lot of my faith rooted in. I just don't believe that any team is looking at the Dodgers and going, oh, yeah, we can confidently beat them. So we're going to get to more baseball later in the show. First, as always, my favorite part of the show. Why would he say that? I go and watch all of these shows. I listen to all these podcasts. I am way too involved in the sports media space so that you don't have to be. I listen to some of these horrible and awful takes and opinions so that I can save you, and then I come in here and give you the breakdown. So let me also start by saying this. Sometimes when I do these, I genuinely like the person. Sometimes when I don't. Sometimes when I do these, I don't like the person. And I'll be honest, this person I like, I just thought this was a really silly mistake to make on the platform that he's currently on. Watch a lot of FS1. Again, you guys know how I feel about Colin. And first things first, even though I disagree with almost everything Nick Wright says, I do. There's something there where it's like he's a hometown guy. He has gotten to have his success on TV. At the same time, his team has had unprecedented success. And I get it, right? Like he is living out to a lot of people a sports fan's dream. Danny Parkins is now also a part of First Things First. And I talked about this a few months ago when I said First Things First, just the whole sports media landscape, everybody struggling with trying to get ratings, numbers, and you're paying all these contracts, you're paying all these TV guys. And they didn't really have a place for Danny Parkins because Breakfast Ball got canceled. They canceled a bunch of shows. The George Taylor show got canceled. I like Danny Parkins, genuinely. And I've listened to him when he does his Chicago show. Great, right? But sometimes I feel like certain takes or opinions, and he's a numbers guy, you should have to say it. Sometimes I wonder if they say it out loud. So he had this thing about Tyreek Hill. And it was the Tyreek Hill injury, and I won't get into we talked about this in our group chat. I won't get into the personal side of Tyreek Hill, but the football player, which I think you can have that conversation. Tyreek Hill is a football player, is one of the best receivers of this century. Nick Wright said his peak is only only Moss and Rice are better. I don't agree with that either. I think there's a handful of guys who are better, including one of the guys we're going to talk about. But Danny put up a graphic, and it was where he was drafted because Tyreek Hill was drafted in the 5th round, and a lot of that was due to character issues, not so much due to pure talent. But he said, he's the Tom Brady of receivers. Well, that's crazy to start with. But then he showed this graphic, and this is the part that was insane to me because he said it live, and I want to think that because I believe Danny Parkins to be a smart person. I think he said it out loud for the first time on live TV and went like, sounds a little weird, doesn't it? Not just the Tom Brady part, but that he went and said Tyreek Hill, for his production and where he was drafted in the 5th round, he was second in all of these stats. It was second in yards, second in touchdowns, second in total catches. And he's like, that's really impressive. He's like, and he's second in all those let me preface this. Let me preface. I assumed he was going to be second to some all-time, like not an all-time, but a guy who just had a really long career as a late round draft pick receiver, because that would make sense, right? If you were to be some guy who was, you know, excuse me, a guy who had just played a really long career and gathered a whole bunch of catches, maybe your peak wasn't Tyreek Hill, you would have been first. And my first thought literally was Rod Smith, because Rod Smith was undrafted. He's Denver's all-time leader in receptions and yards and all that. Or I think he's second in yards now to DT. But that was my assumption. And then Danny just went one up on me, and he said he's second in all of these things too. Drum roll, please. Antonio Brown. And immediately a flag went off in my head. And I said, what? Like, it makes sense. Antonio Brown's one of the greatest receivers we've ever seen. Also, kind of similarly in that Tyreek Hill boat, personality and character, a little out there, a little questionable. But I thought, so we're saying Tyreek Hill is the Tom Brady of receivers because he was drafted so late and had all this production. Antonio Brown's literally ahead of him on that list in everything. And Antonio Brown was drafted later than Tyreek Hill. Mistakes are one thing. Like, if you just say something in the spur of the moment, I'm not going to say, oh, see, he messed up. He said the wrong thing. Everybody does that. Anyone in front of a camera who's got a microphone, if you talk long enough, you talk often enough, you will say things in the spur of the moment that are just wrong. I'm not here to blast that. But when you curate a segment, when you create a graphic, when you are realistically in his position, which is trying to hold on to this show because you just moved your whole family out here and you just have this new contract FS1 and your first show went down because the ratings weren't good enough. So they throw you on First Things First. And some of that is your relationship with Nick Wright. That's, you could have done better. You can say, and here's another thing with this. We should just not include Tom Brady in conversations. Tom Brady is such an outlier in the history of professional sports, not just football. Just don't throw him in conversations. Like, it's fine. Go to whoever's the next, you know, most proven late round draft pick ever. Like, use Russell as an example. Russell Wilson's had a great career for where he was drafted in the third round. Use Brock Purdy, who's gotten to a Super Bowl as a last pick in the draft. Don't try to be, this guy's the Tom Brady of this position. And then secondly, if you're doing this research, which you claim to be a guy who's doing his research, and you look at this and it's like, well, he's second ever in yards, he's second ever in catches, he's second ever in this. And it's like, okay, well, who's he first to? Because I'm seeing a lot of seconds, and it's like, oh, well, he's first to Antonio Brown, the guy who literally profiles everything I'm trying to say, but actually better. Later draft pick, better player, also has a ring, has like everything that Tyreek Hill is. And yes, Tyreek Hill is unique in terms of watching him play because of how fast he is, maybe the fastest player you've ever seen in pads. But Antonio Brown's just better and fits the profile even better. Like, just celebrate at that point. If you want to celebrate Tyreek Hill and what he accomplished on the field, do it without comparison. Just talk about the player that Tyreek Hill was. Just a thought. Again, you say something in the spur of the moment and it's wrong. Okay, fine. You curated a segment. You made graphics. You did research. And Elevate should have told you, and I've done this a bunch. Again, curate a segment, pull up a graphic, do some research just to find out, I guess I'm wrong. Oh, this isn't a great analogy. Oh, this isn't a great idea to use. Oh, this isn't a great comp. Why do shows fail? Why do people stop watching certain people? And I like Danny Parkins. I like Chicago. Bears are a wild card team. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. So we are going to be doing power rankings at the top of the hour because that got messed up the other day. So I do want to actually get that out there. Excuse me. Thursday night football are always kind of weird games, right? Like it's really short week, depending on where you're traveling. And there's just been some really odd Thursday night football outcomes. It's one of the across the board since its inception. Once we finally got past Jaguars and Titans every other week, it's been a weird bunch of weird scores, right? That being said, I have the Rams really high on my personal list. I've said the Rams could win the Super Bowl, and I predicted them to win the Super Bowl against the Ravens. That might not be looking the way it is. The Ravens are 1-3. We'll see. Lamar Jackson, please come back. I will say this, though. The 49ers tonight aren't going to have their starting quarterback, multiple receivers, their starting tight end. They're not going to have Nick Bosa obviously out for the year. They're not going to have one of their corners are out. It's injuries all up and down the board. So it is Mac Jones, Christian McCaffrey, and a prayer. I have said to start the season, Kyle Shanahan is my early season coach of the year because he is winning these games with Mac Jones. If he wins tonight, he might solidify coach of the year. He might be the first person to ever lock it up after only 5 weeks. Like I don't know if you could have a more impressive win, with the exception of Denver, and I'll explain Denver's win why in a little bit. So the Rams can't lose this game. If I'm going to take you seriously as a Super Bowl contender, and I know anybody can get hot, anyone can catch momentum, and all these other things, and I understand the reality is, oh, this isn't true. This doesn't actually define anything. It does. It does. You can't lose to the Mac Jones, no Brandon Ayuk, no George Kittle, no Nick Bosa, no Ricky Pearsall. No, like they're missing so many guys. You can't lose this game. Sorry, it's off limits. You cannot lose this game. If you lose this game, I can't take you serious anymore. And I have been really high on the Rams. Puka's going crazy. Devontae Adams looks great. The defense is good. Like everybody, Matthew Stafford, you know my opinion. He's a top 5 guy. You can't lose this game. Sorry, I don't make the rules. You just can't lose this game. And there's very few can't lose. You can't lose this one if I want to take you seriously. You know who I don't take seriously? The Atlanta Falcons. Why? Because they lost a game 30-0 to the Carolina Panthers. You know who I don't take seriously? Uh, excuse me. I'm not, or at least I'm not as high on. Like, I don't want to compare those teams. It's just like you can't lose this game, man. That's just the reality of it. You cannot lose this game. We're gonna be talking about power rankings here in a little bit. I need to get these all hidden for y'all so I can do this correctly. Again, we tried to do this the other day, but it got messed up. So, but you cannot lose this game, right? Like we all understand that you can't lose. Oops, there's my webcam. So, yeah, Rams. I love y'all. I think very highly of you. Cannot lose this game. This is HardFoul Radio. We'll be back. It's top of the hour. And we are back. It is the top of the second hour here. So we're going to get into our power rankings because they got messed up earlier in the week. But before we get into that, I want to preface, and yes, I have obviously a Denver bias. I don't deny that. But Denver has a chance to do something really cool this week, which is back to back weeks have a chance to prove they are who I thought they were and who Sean Payton thought they were. So last week, Monday Night Football, the point was dominate the Bengals. They're playing a backup quarterback. You're at home. You should dominate this game. And they did. 28-3. The Bengals didn't get past the 50-yard line the entire after the first drive. Like they did exactly what they're supposed to do. There's also this narrative online going around that Jamar Chase was always open. I just wish people understood what double coverage meant. Yes, the Broncos respected the hell out of Chase and said, "Hey, They don't normally put a safety at the percentage they did over the top for PS2, but they did. They said Jamar Chase is not going to beat us. He's the one guy. No disrespect to T Higgins. They like T Higgins could be good. We don't think he could take over the game. So they left Riley Moss on him a lot one on one and said we're going to double team Sertan or double team Chase with Sertan and a safety, and they did it. So please get the whole he was cooking Sertan blah blah, like that's just that narrative doesn't exist. So they dominated that game, right? And they were supposed to. Again, Cincinnati's on a backup quarterback. You're at home. You're supposed to win that convincingly. Now this week, you're going to play possibly it's going to be one of the two or three hardest games of the season. Denver goes to Philadelphia. They're playing in the 1:00 window, which is 10 a.m. So they're going West Coast team, going to play the early East Coast time. They're on the road. They fly to London after this game. And they're playing what is the conventional best team in football, defending Super Bowl champions. Right now, the line is at 3.5 favored Philly, which I honestly think, all things considered, and the way that Vegas understands lines, that's a pretty good line if you're the Broncos. Like, I think this is actually a very respectful line towards Denver. As hard as this game is probably going to be, and that's a very healthy and respectful line. So, if you are, Sean Payton said, this is a team that can win a Super Bowl. And I agree with him because the pass rush, the corners, the defense, the offensive line, Denver leads the league in sacks, gives up the fewest. They've sacked opposing quarterbacks 15 times. Bo's only been sacked 3 times. Everybody's a part of the offense, which is frustrating to get the process down because of how Sean Payton uses personnel. Like everybody gets to play. And that's kind of frustrating because it would be an easier start to the season, which Sean has his worst record of any month of his coaching career is in September. Bill Belichick had this too, where September, I just saw the stat twice during the Brady years, Belichick, or 3 times, I'm sorry, through September, the Patriots had the worst defense in the NFL. And if you know anything about Bill Belichick when he was with the Patriots, not Bill Belichick currently, he was not the worst defense in the NFL, and they never finished close to that. They were always finished the season rounding out top 10, if not top 5. But that's because he just sits there and he used so many different personnel. He threw so much on the defense. It was so complicated that it was tough to start. It's not a push start car. It is a build the engine and then you can start the car kind of defense. And that's how Sean does his offense. So post September, Sean and Bill's records get better. That's what great coaches do, especially when they're throwing this much personnel groupings and this much information at you. So, yes, do I think Bo is the greatest quarterback in the world? No, but he's also being probably asked to do more in terms of terminology, personnel groupings, play calling than any of the guys from his class. And that's just how Sean Payton coaches. And some of that is, again, to his benefit because once he gets it down, it's a great benefit to Bo Nix. So the ability for Denver to go into this game, again, defending champs, you're on the road, you're playing on the wrong time zone, you got to go to London after the game. This is one of the toughest games they're going to play all year. I would still, and we'll see when picks just in come in tomorrow, I might still take Denver. Not going to lie to you. Might still take Denver. Again, that's gonna be a really tough game. But if you are a Super Bowl caliber team, what Sean Payne has said, this is a Super Bowl caliber team. This is how you prove it. I'm not saying yes they are, no they're not. This is how you prove it. This is one of those games. Is what it is. So we got to take first a look back at these were our power rankings the previous week. I always want to do this for context of where I think teams are sitting versus where I think teams are going. So we see those teams in the get lost category, get out, get good. And remember, get lost is just I think you're just drawing dead. You're looking at the draft. Get out. Again, I just don't think you're a playoff team. Get good. I think you have a chance to be a playoff team. Great. I think you have a chance to win playoff games. Get excellent is basically, I think you have a chance to win the Super Bowl. This is my Colin Coward to call it a Super Bowl bubble. So get good, get great, get out. This is where everybody was previous week. With that being said, the new who was in Get Lost? Well, of course, Browns, Dolphins, Saints, Titans, Bengals, and Panthers. Now, some of these teams are in here for different reasons. The Browns, that defense is amazing. Myles Garrett is entering into the all-time pantheon of NFL receivers and receivers, sorry, NFL defenders. He's amazing. This defense is really fucking good. They're starting Dylan Gabriel. I don't have a lot of hope for Dylan Gabriel. Joe Flacco, though, he probably will be better than Joe Flacco, who is objectively the worst quarterback in the NFL, despite what PFF tried to tell you about Bo Nix. The Dolphins, I know they got to win, but it was against the Jets. Weirdly, and I know the Jets, people are probably like, well, the Jets should be in get lost. They lost the game. Losing Tyreek Hill for the season, I think, is actually a bigger loss than the Jets losing that game. So I think they walked out of that game, even though Miami got the win, Jets got the loss. I actually feel better. I don't feel good about either of them, but I feel better about the Jets than I do the Dolphins going forward. The Saints, they're 0-4, man. This is just probably the worst roster in the NFL. They just don't have enough talent. Spencer Rattler's 0-11 now as a starting quarterback. Like, what do you want? The Titans, I love Cam Ward. I love the honesty. I love his play. I think that there's a lot of things he's doing extremely, extremely well. But um, look, you're 0-4, you're 0-4. Like he said, we're ass right now. Agreed. Bengals, this is a Jake Browning story. Look, Jake Browning is, as Tony said yesterday, count your days, man. Jake Browning's not good. What do you want? The Bengals are better than this, but Joe Burrow out for the season. I know there's some Bengals fans holding on to hope that he's going to come back towards the end of the season. You're not going to be able to float. Like, this is not a without Joe. This team is dominated by four players, and when one of those four players and your most impactful player being your quarterback is out, it's tough. Panthers, look, man, this is a bad trade. This is a bad look. You trade all those picks, you get Bryce Young number one overall, and just a few years later, it looks like you are going to be heading back to the NFL draft to look for a quarterback. I was excited for Bryce, what he could do at the end of the year. But I think this defense has potential. Tet already looks like a good receiver. It looks like a future number one, but I just can't get behind Bryce Young anymore. I don't have it in me. Get out. Falcons, Raiders. Now, again, some of these teams are in here for different reasons. Look, these are teams that I just believe are not going to be able to make the playoffs. The Falcons, I have no trust in. You lose 30-0 to the Panthers. You should probably be in get lost, but I like Michael Penix. I like the offensive personnel here. That's all I got for you. The Raiders, shout out to self-sabotage by the Raiders. Ashton Genty has his first breakout game, and it's because he goes to the Michael Myers stance, which Chip Kelly was like, no, don't do that, which feels like a control issue for Chip. But Ashton had a really good game. I still don't believe in this O-line who can't block for anybody. Geno's throwing the ball a lot, and to anybody who will catch it, whether that's his teammates or not. The Cowboys, I just don't think with that defense, and if CeeDee Lamb is going to miss any amount of time, was that a very impressive tie? Yes, but I think that was the apex of the Cowboys, which is tying with a really good team. I don't think they're a playoff team. The Jets are probably one more bad loss away from going to get lost. Look, again, I said I feel slightly better about the Dolphins because the loss of Tyreek Hill versus the loss of the game. Still got a bunch of issues here. The Cardinals are not terrible, which is why I don't think they belong and get lost, because I do believe if the Cardinals had to play any team in that get lost category, they win. I just don't think they fare very well against the other 25 teams in the NFL. The Patriots, I this is my hardest one. I don't think the Patriots are a playoff team. And I've tried really hard to think to myself, like, hey, how do they do it? And I know they are a popular playoff pick. Tony had them in the playoffs, but I'm not there yet. I will say, though, for a team that has a chance to move up, like guaranteed wins and moves up, because none of these teams are guaranteed to move up if they win next week. The Patriots are guaranteed to win if they move up. Sorry, are guaranteed to move up if they win. If they beat the Bills on Sunday Night Football, absolutely, they go to get good. The New York Giants should have been in get lost and they were going to be in get lost, and then they put Jackson Dart in the game. And I don't, and I'm not taking a ton from that Chargers win and not saying that he played amazing or, oh, they changed the direction of the franchise, or they didn't change the direction of the franchise for this season, but they unequivocally changed the direction of the franchise going forward. I said this on Monday. Jackson Dart playing, Russ could have had probably the same stat line, maybe a little bit better, but it feels different when it's your first round rookie quarterback who feels new, refreshing, potential, hype versus your 30 plus year old at this point journeyman quarterback in Russell Wilson. So I think the optimism keeps the Giants in get out. Get good. Look, man, the 49ers are actually a good football team. They're just way too injured right now. They probably are going to lose tonight to the Rams. That's fine. I get it. But this is still a really quality football team if they weren't suffering every injury under the sun. Some of that potentially their own fault. We'll see. The Indianapolis Colts, who it's just going to take me a while to get really convinced this team is the one. It's tough, man. It's just tough. I'm not there yet with Daniel Jones, but give me a few more weeks. They can have a chance to move and to get great. The Chargers, this is totally injury related. If the Chargers weren't missing 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen, then yes, they would be in the next tier up. The Pittsburgh Steelers, this is 8-1 written all over it. I know they're 3-1 right now. I don't believe in their 3-1 record. I'm sorry. I know Mike Tomlin is just gonna get to 500 again or slightly above because that's just what he does. Cool. I can't put them any higher than this. The Ravens, for that same regard of like, is much. The Steelers are 3-1. I don't believe them. The Ravens are 1-3. I still believe in them. Now Lamar has to come back. If he misses extensive time, now it's 2 to 3 weeks. I am even holding out hope, and maybe this is being overly optimistic. I won't give up on the Ravens until they're 1-6. So they could be 1-5 if Lamar misses the next 2 games, and they lose both of those. Then they have a bye week, and they come back and play the Bears. If they win that game, they have a chance. They lose that game, then we got to kick them out. The Texans, this is again just inherent belief in CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans, even though they haven't given me a whole lot to love or be comfortable about this year. 1-3, but again, I just naturally believe in them more than I believe in the Jaguars or the Colts. Obviously, all 3 AFC South teams are in this get good tier, and the Titans are in down and get lost. The Bears, this is gonna be make or break, which is weird because they're on a bye. This is gonna be make or break bye week. Really good coaches take advantage of the bye, whether it's early, late, in the middle of the season. As a fan, I don't love early bye weeks, but if you're a really good to great coach, you take advantage of them. And I want to see what they look like post bye week. They have a chance to move up. Again, I thought this was a playoff team. I like Chicago. Seattle, pleasantly surprised. I'm going to be on the not the last to give Sam Darnold credit, because I do think Sam is he's good. I think he's good. I think Seattle is just good. I don't know if I'm ready to call them great yet. I want to see them in a few more games before I'm willing to say they are a great team. But they're very good. Like, they are the epitome of good. And the Jaguars, I got to give some credit, even though, funny enough, the Jaguars are winning in spite of Trevor Lawrence. Like Trevor's been meh all season, but the running game's been really good. The defense, my concern here is that the Jaguars defense, which has 13 takeaways already, which is more than they had all of last season, I think that's super high variance, and I don't know if that is sustainable. Like I don't think they're going to force 60, almost 65 turnovers. Or no, sorry, what'd that be? Through 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 math. I don't think they're going to force 50 plus turnovers. Okay. That seems unrealistic. So that I want to see when their defense has to actually, and I think it's going to be a great test because I think they can win that game against Kansas City. And that's going to be a great test. Again, some games are guaranteed. If the Jaguars win that game, I will move them up and I will have them as my convincingly best team in the AFC South. Because the Colts play the Raiders this week. I'm not going to be overly impressed if the Colts win. And the Texans, they'll be 2-3, and if they win. If the Jags win Monday night, I will absolutely unequivocally move them up. The great tier, get great. I still believe in the Vikings, even though it's a Carson Wentz-led football team. I think this roster and Kevin O'Connell are too good to not be in this status. The Rams, this is my Super Bowl pick for the NFC. Stafford, I believe, is a top 5 quarterback. I just truly believe it, even if Tony will make fun of me. The Bucks are interesting because the Bucks probably haven't played as well. Like they haven't played to the level that I think they are. And maybe that just means I'm wrong. Like maybe I'm just going to look back on this and go, "Oh, I just overrated the Bucks." I don't think so, but there's a chance. So the Bucks, really good team. Again, the we have all kinds of technicals this morning. They've had to win a couple games last minute game winning drives, but again, they've also suffered cluster injuries, which is why like no Tristan Wirfs, Mike Evans is out now. They just got Chris Godwin back. Like there's a bunch of injuries teams had to suffer, and I think the fact they're still here shows that once they're healthy, this is going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. The Commanders, I believe now, Jaden Daniels has to come back and look like Jaden Daniels because out of the bye, out of the Bears bye, we talked about them. These two teams play each other. And this is where I need to see, hey, who's the best quarterback from this class? Caleb has started to put himself back in the conversation because he's played well these last couple of weeks. And because it's a week-to-week culture, no one's truly broken away. Even though Jaden and Bo have had the most success by far, no one is so drastically put away that if Jaden Daniels were to play poorly and lose that game to Chicago, the conversation of best quarterback from that class gets reopened, especially if you look at the way Drake May play. Like, think about it. You could have a situation here in 2 weeks where if Caleb beats Jaden and knocks Jaden from that what has been untouchable class because he's been the clear best quarterback from that class, Bo gets a win against the Eagles and Drake May gets a win against the Bills, we're going to be looking at this quarterback class a whole lot differently. That's probably how we're going to start tomorrow off, by the way. The Broncos and Chiefs, again, I think these are the two best teams in the AFC West. No disrespect to the Chargers. I mean, they got off to that incredible start. The Chargers are only not in the get great category because of injuries. Obviously, Slater for the year. Joe Alt's going to be gone for a couple of weeks, and we'll see how he plays when he comes back. The Chiefs, you got to give them the legacy respect. I flat out think the Broncos are better right now. Defensively, offensive line, again, they lead the NFL in sacks. They get sacked the least. Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Pat Bryant, RJ Harvey, J.K. Dobbins. Like they got a bunch of guys. A team that offensive personnel was considered a weakness. You are now seeing with Sean Payton, the coaching, the play calling, the style. More and more guys are getting involved. More and more guys are making an impact. And the Packers, I just have to knock you down from excellent because you tied to the Dallas Cowboys. Look, I don't think the Cowboys are that good. Obviously, they're down there and get out. You can't be one of the absolute best teams in the NFL if you're tying the Dallas Cowboys. Like the same way I said, the Rams, if they don't win tonight, will get knocked down to just get good. Like I will lose so much confidence in the Rams. And then finally, in my opinion, clear best teams in the NFL, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions, and the Buffalo Bills. These are, in the Eagles and Lions, probably pound for pound the best rosters in the NFL. And the Bills have, in my opinion, right now, the best player as currently playing. Mahomes is the quarterback of the generation. Mahomes is the he deserves to be number one on pretty much every list because of what he has already accomplished. But if we are saying right now, who wins right now, you got to go with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. These teams are playing the regular season. The Bills always beat the Chiefs in the regular season. I think Josh has a real chance to get back-to-back league MVPs. And I said this earlier in the week. Don't let it happen, Buffalo. You should get the 1 seed. 1,000%. The schedule is set up. You're a great team. You have the easiest schedule. You should be the 1 seed. Do not let the Chiefs walk in on the final game of your stadium in the AFC Championship and rip your hearts out again to go to 4 straight Super Bowls, which is your one distinction that you have. Please, please, please don't do that. I can't handle it, and I'm not even a Bills fan. So these are, in my opinion, 3 best teams. Again, talked about it a little bit. The teams that are guaranteed to move up if they win. The Broncos if they beat the Eagles. The Patriots if they beat the Bills. And the Jaguars if they beat the Chiefs. Guaranteed move up, without question. The teams that are guaranteed to move down if they lose. If the Rams lose tonight to the 49ers. Oh, I'm sorry. The Chargers also, if the Chargers get a win against the Commanders this week, they're guaranteed to move up, even with the injuries. The Chargers absolutely get to go up if they beat the Commanders. I think it might just be the Rams if they lose. The Eagles I wouldn't knock down. I would elevate Denver for beating them. The Eagles I would only knock down is if we get in a 24-hour span, lose to Denver, A.J. Brown request trade. That's probably the only way I would move the Eagles down. But this is get good, get great, get out. Week 5 of the NFL season. Well, post week 4. Y'all know what I mean. This is HardFoul Radio. Back momentarily. And we are back. This is HardFoul Radio. Appreciate everybody for tuning in as always. And we'll talk about two things here really quick. One is Sauce Gardner's comments on penalties, and the other is Shador. But let's get to Sauce first. Sauce Gardner said something that is unequivocally true. I also think you unequivocally can't say it. Sauce Gardner said, he's like, I watch a lot of football. I see what guys get away with on a week in, week out basis. And then I know what I get flagged for. And I feel like I'm only getting flagged for that stuff because we're not a winning football team. Yeah. Yeah. 1,000%. When you're winning, like you have to, it's one of those things that is kind of frustrating when you are a team who is rebuilding and you are a team who is trying to figure out what you do well. You do have to fight the refs as well as the better teams in the league because the better teams in the league have proven they're better and they are going to get the benefit of the doubt. The better coaches are going to get the benefit of the doubt. That's just how it works, unfortunately. Yes, I could tell you 1,000 calls that I'm like, oh, Denver got screwed. And Denver probably got screwed. Denver also wasn't good enough that getting screwed really mattered, unfortunately. When you have a team that just flat out is not good enough, it doesn't matter if you're getting the calls or not. You're not going to win those games. So, yeah, the Legion of Boom, we all know they held. They were great. Holding wasn't what made them great. When you played the no-fly zone, Keep Talib probably got a little handsy. They were great. They were winning with or without the penalties. Bill Belichick's teams, little handsy. They were great. You do have to fight the refs and the other good teams and great teams on your way up to getting yourself to being good/great. Because trust me, Sauce, that was the complaint about you. When you first got in the league and the Jets were, I don't even want to say great, but they were at least good. And then you got Aaron Rodgers, and so there was hype and expectation. You got away with holding calls. You were great. People called you the best corner in the game. I didn't, but people called you the best corner in the game. You're now complaining about said holding calls. You know what you do? And I know this is a cliche answer, and a lot of people don't like this, and I don't personally love it either, but it's the truth. I said the Jets this year were not going to be a good team, but they were trying to build stuff for the future, and you and Garrett Wilson are clearly a part of their future, and so they paid you guys partly to, hey, understand, we're not that good right now, so we're going to make you rich, and we need you to buy into this program. Not doing stuff like this. This isn't buying into the program. This isn't, hey, this is literally, because I normally don't like this kind of thing, but this is shut up, get in line money. This is, okay, yeah, they're holding, or they're calling you for holding. They're going to. And this is going to be a frustrating season for you. Because, again, you're a great player. Don't spend it complaining about the refs. Because now you're allowing that to be the thing. If you guys do turn this around in New York, what are people going to say? How are people going to view it? Oh, we only lost that because of the refs. So, like, you're going to be seen as that guy. The Jets paid you to not be that guy. They gave you money. They made you generationally wealthy so that you won't complain. These are just the facts. Don't know what you want. Sorry. Not sorry. Like, you can't be this guy right now. So this is a get in line moment. This is a hush money moment. This is a be a good soldier moment. You've already been paid. You ain't Garrett. It's not going to be a good season. It's going to be rough. There's going to be ups and downs. Don't be the ref guy by week 4. Now, moving on from Sauce, and this I think is very important. Shador Sanders went full mime yesterday, and everybody was freaking out about it. And there's a lot of people saying this is so unprofessional. This is so, oh my gosh, how could he do this? Look, man, we have to be, if anything, just fair. People were leading their shows with this. Like, First Thing First had this in their A block. Why are you asking Shador Sanders about this? Because you want a clip. You want to put him in a position where he's going to say the wrong thing. You are intentionally trying to set him up. So when somebody knows they're trying to be set up, the last thing they're going to do, at least I know the last thing I'm going to do, is give you the setup. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, this is the correct thing to say. This is the politically correct. This is the media trend. You don't care what I have to say anyway. I could say Joe Flacco's a great teammate. Dylan Gabriel's a great teammate. They're going to do this, that. This is the Browns organization. I don't make the rules. Nothing he says you're going to like and you're going to criticize. And this is just a different angle of criticism. Because if he said the right thing, you would all turn around and the conversation be, man, he gave us the right answer and it was like really well and professional and he's learning and he must still be really bad though if they're going to keep him as a third string quarterback. Cam Newton said it best. They just are not going to give Shador a fair chance because he is too big of a personality, aura. The people don't want their backup quarterbacks to be famous. And I get it, but it's so incredibly unfair to then go, we are going to antagonize. How many third string QBs get talked to by the media? I just talked about Sauce. Sauce is a star corner, one of the best players on his team. Makes sense why they're talking to him. Why are they talking to Shador? Why are they talking to Shador? You should be talking to Joe Flacco, who just got benched, talking to Dylan Gabriel, who just got promoted. No, they want to go talk to Shador Sanders, a third string guy. And he's like, and all he can do is smile and laugh. And it's like, oh, well, it's because Rex Ryan criticized. My only advice to Shador is Rex Ryan's a joke. Rex Ryan has turned into one of those, I'm just going to it's the easiest bag in media. And we're going to talk about it after the break. But it's the easiest bag in media, and Rex Ryan has fallen into it. This is HardFoul Radio. Back momentarily. And we are back here at HardFoul Radio to help close out today's show. Again, started with just the insanity that is the lack of good commissioners at the basketball level. Both Kathy and Adam, not even kind of, I ripped both of them to start the show. It's just insane to me where we're at with basketball, and with David Stern having such a strong blueprint to then go around and the WNBA, obviously, with what's going on there, with saying like, well, Caitlyn owes this, and eh, Kathy's statements were just insane, and Adam not being able to handle what David Stern left him, and the gap between the NBA and the NFL being bigger than it ever has, and honestly losing the gap the other way where baseball is closing in on it. And Rob Manfred, the changes that he's made, he's never been my favorite commissioner, but you got to give respect and credit where it's due. He's figured it out. Adam and Kathy seem to be struggling really tremendously with being commissioners of professional basketball leagues, and that's unfortunate. We got to talk about this here too. We talked about Stur a little bit just before we went to break. I kind of just rant on this topic every couple of months because it just drives me nuts because these people are so infuriating, stupid, not believable. I'm not sure. There's a bunch of ways you could describe them. But I'm just so annoyed of the always pessimistic, the always I'm just here to criticize, the I'm just going to be negative. Rex Ryan does this. Jason McIntyre is probably the worst. But these guys who I don't think actually like sports. And I'm being honest. I don't think Jason McIntyre likes sports. I think he likes shit talking athletes. And maybe that's because he wasn't one. Maybe that's because he doesn't feel he reached the pinnacle of his own dreams. I don't know. But I don't think he likes sports. I think he just likes shit talking. Rex Ryan obviously likes sports. He was a football coach for many years. Dad comes from a coaching football family. I think with him, there's just a lot of resentment because nobody wants to rehire him after he feels like he accomplished whatever level of success you want to call that as a head coach. He did get to multiple AFC championship games to his credit. But these guys just want to shit on, degrade, be mean, be critical. There's no nuance. There's no real analysis. There's just this guy stinks. They don't give credit when someone does it. Like, oh yeah, well they did this. This other team's crappy. There's no real breakdowns. Or you ever learned something listening to Rex Ryan on ESPN? You ever learned something to any of Jason McIntyre's ventures? He had his own website. He's now with the Herd. Do you ever feel like you walk away from that convo going, oh, that was creative or funny, or I learned something that was interesting? I used to say this about Nick Wright, but Nick Wright at least has this going for him. Nick Wright is clearly smart and a fan of sports. You see him when he gets into this really deep, hardcore fan mode that, to be fair, takes away some of the integrity from his takes, but I get into my hardcore fan mode, which takes away some of the integrity of my takes. I'm a Chiefs hater. I said that before. I'm an AFC West hater. You know why? Because I root for a team in the AFC West, and my fandom means that I'm going to watch the other three. It's just how it goes. I don't make the rules. I just enforce them. But Nick at least has like a real recall of sports history. Nick actually comes off as a smart individual, sometimes annoying, and that's part of his character. He wants to be the annoying smart guy who's like he says it himself. I like these teams or I like these players, but I want to be right more than I want to like something. But the Jason McIntyres, the Rex Ryans of the world, like, you guys don't like sports, and that's fine. If you don't like sports, if you don't want to give any nuance, if you don't, bless me, if you don't want to, excuse me, if you don't want to be, if you don't want to add to the conversation, you just want to be negative and critical. I don't listen to country music. So I'm not going to critique country music. I just don't like it. It's not meant for me. That's fine. I just remove myself from the space because that's what rational adults do. But these guys want to get paid. So they don't care about being rational adults. They want to get paid. They want to get clicks. And the king of all this, and I will always stand on this, Stephen A and Skip ruined it for everybody, even themselves, because you know who sounds like they have nuance now in 2025? Skip Bayless, because he's been humbled. He no longer sits at the top of the sports media food chain. And now that he's on the arena, Gilbert Arenas' show, when you hear him talk, and Gerald McCoy's there, and Aqib Talib's there, and they're bringing in the fourth chair is kind of a rotating thing. They bring in different NFL players. They've had the quarterback that just happened yesterday. They've had offensive linemen. Like, there's nuance now in what Skip says. You actually understand, oh, this guy was a hardcore reporter and journalist for decades. He really loves this. He's not just trying to go on TV and get the highest ratings by saying the craziest things. That's good sports television. That's quality. And that's Skip Bayless, who, again, was at the top of the food chain as far as media personalities go, was at the top of the food chain as far as the irrational hot take guys go. And he sounds like he has nuance in 2025. Jason McIntyre, Rex Ryan, I could go down the list. There's a bunch of them. You guys just don't like sports. And that's okay. It's okay. Just go somewhere else and make their fan base miserable. You don't need to ruin sports for the rest of us because you don't like them. I'm not a country music guy. I don't go into the country music blogs or on Reddit or try to make a country music channel critiquing their music. Not my thing. Just not my thing. It's okay. It's okay. That's all I got on that. Hey man, this is HardFoul Radio. I appreciate everybody as always. Don't forget to check out. Obviously, you can see the full episode on YouTube. Don't forget to check out the videos wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple. Group chat just dropped. A&M will be dropping tonight as well, and we are live tomorrow with picks just in. We need a good week. We are way under 500, so we need a good week this week. But this is HardFoul Radio. I will see you guys tomorrow morning.